let's go ahead and recreate the surface, but let's make it bigger, like human scale habitable. I just want to show you how we can take this and make it like a legit design space with meaning, and like we can add narratives to it and stuff like that. But let's just start with a plane, and let's make the plane let's make the plane like 80 feet by 80 feet. So 80 feet and 80 feet. So now we're getting larger. So if you notice the difference, we're increasing the scale. And then let's rebuild this, and let's give it 6 points on both directions. And let's do okay. Nice. Okay. So if I do function F10, we have all these points now. Let's create it so that we're taking this geometry and it's just mirrored. So let's do it so that it goes up like this, right? And then let's do it so that this part is going up like this, right? So that goes up like this, and this goes up like that, and then this goes up like this, okay? So we can take this quadrant right here. Let's take this quadrant here, and let's just go up. Let's go up 15 feet. There we go. That's gentle. Let's see, that looks pretty, looks nice, proportional, I would say. We can go down a little bit lower, but let's just stick here for now. And then same thing here. Let's take this quadrant up here, and let's go up 15 feet as well. I could have done it at the same time, right? So now we have this scenario here, this like saddle structure, right? And you see this a lot in architecture. You'll see these types of projects everywhere. And I'll show you examples later on. And so if we want to get a sense of scale, I can just draw a plane, right? And just go from here to here. So we know what's really good. So there's this part that's being lifted off the ground here, right? And then we have this part here, that's the gentle transition. Again, this is the exact same curve on every side. So do you see how we quickly can generate a complex geometry by doing a very simple maneuver? We could have taken this curve and just rotated it 4 times and just did network surface like what I did here, or we could have done a sweep too. So this is what we have so far. Now, let me just make some layers here. So let's go ahead, let's make a layer. Let's say one layer is going to be glass. Another layer we'll say is ground. Another layer we can say is roof. Let's just start with that for now. So let's just go ahead, give things colors. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So let's go ahead and make this the roof, right? Let's make this the ground. Okay. We could technically hold this down. So let's make the glass layer active. Let's dupe face border, which means duplicate face border. Let's go down here. So I duplicated the border of this. Well, dupe face border. I'm going to pull this down, right? So now I have this space. Let me go ahead and scale this up. If I hold shift, this will scale it evenly with the gumball, like that. And let's just move this out of the way. Let it be in its own space. Okay, nice. All right, so we have this going on. I want to split this. So if I go to split, select objects to split. I want to split this with this. I went too fast. Split, select objects to split. Oh, actually, I did it. I think I just duplicated it. Okay. So we have this. Let's add a glass layer. So let's just go down here, use new material. We'll do glass for now. We'll do, okay. And let's just look that. And also we can give this a transparency in shaded view. So just so that you understand it's glass. There you go. So now this has this little transparency in shaded view. Again, this is geared towards beginners. So like if you know this stuff, it might sound redundant for you, but I just want to introduce little bits and pieces of Rhino to people in terms of workflow. So currently we have three elements, right? We have a ground plane, we have an edge, and we have a roof. Let's say, for example, that you want people to walk on the roof and climb on the roof. So let's give it some stairs. So what we can do is let's go ahead and create a new layer. Let's call it stairs. And I'm going to give it a color, make it brown. So I'll just go in here, select this one, Control C, Control V. I just Control paste, copy paste, and let's go ahead and change it to stairs. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select this layer and the ground layer. And let me go ahead and make stairs active for now. And I'm going to isolate this. I'm going to use the isolate command a lot. Isolate, unisolate. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lift this guy up 7 inches. So I'm going to click here, 7 inches. All right. And you'll see why in a second. And then I'm going to go ahead and just, give it, extrude it down with the gumball by holding the solid dot. And I'm just going to split this with this. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and contour this. So I'm going to do contour. I'm going to go from here to here, and I'll go down 7 inches. All right, cool. And so, if you notice, the reason why I'm using 7 inches is because basically, at least in the US, maximum riser height is 7 inches. It depends on jurisdiction, but mostly maximum riser height is typically 7 inches. You can do 6 inches. But currently what we have here are these steps. So I'm going to go ahead and group it. In the contour command, you can group your contours, but it's only going to contour it by the contour plane, which means, let me go ahead and isolate this, which means that it'll contour, for example, this curve and this curve, because they're both on the same contour plane. And it will contour this one and this one. But I want to contour the whole thing. It's just easier to select. So if I go in here and select this, type in planar surface, there you go. Now I have these surface steps, right? I typed in unisolate. So let me just do Control V again, just because it's easier to work with. This is that very topmost surface that we have here. I could honestly also just isolate it. Again, explode this. And then I can take this guy and extrude it downward. Extrude it down -7 inches. Okay. And then let me again unisolate. So you see how I'm always using the isolate command a lot when you're working with this stuff. And I want you to pay attention. I don't have any thicknesses yet. I have not given anything a thickness yet, which is really important. When you're working in Rhino, try to stay in surfaces as long as possible. And then at the end, give yourself thicknesses to your walls, your roofs, or any type of element that has an actual thickness to it. So here we are. What I want to do is, let me select, let's just select the stairs as well. And let's do isolate. And we're going to split these stairs. We're going to go ahead and split these stairs with this thickness, because I don't want the thickness of the stairs to exceed 7 inches, because we're going to walk underneath this thing, right? We don't want this to be thick. This is an opening to enter the space, and the same thing here. So we want to get rid of all of this stuff underneath here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to split. So select object to split. I'll select the whole thing for now. I'll hold Control and deselect this guy. Press Enter when done. Select cutting objects. It's this thick surface here. Press Enter, and it's going to go ahead and start splitting things. Okay, cool. So I can go ahead and just select all of this and just delete it. Select all of this and just delete. I can also go like in my side views if I wanted to, and delete it if I wanted to. But I'm just being, again, I like to work in perspective. Delete this. Okay, cool. So now we have all these surfaces here. Let me go ahead and delete this. So you see, these are going to be our steps. And this is the reason why I made that copy of that surface and went up 7 inches, right? Because I'm gonna extrude it down 7 inches to compensate. I mean, this looks cool already on its own, right? This looks like a cool design. So we're going to go ahead and go ahead and just, again, use the gumball dot, the solid dot gumball, go down -7 inches. So now we have our stairs, you see? And again, I'm going to unisolate. So now we have this guy. So now we have our stairs, right? Let's just look at this in rendered view. It looks cool. It's getting there. It looks cool. It looks like a legit space. But when you're working specifically like in architecture, for example, you want to give like legit thicknesses to spaces and to architectural elements like roofs and floors. Maybe first year, it's not that important, but as you go through studio, and this is more so geared towards like, I guess, design centric programs, because in architecture school, you do have more design centered programs where it's more on the conceptual side. And then you have this architecture schools where the curriculum is more technical based. And even from the start, they really care about structural support. Neither one is right or wrong. You need both, but I'm just stating the realities of an architectural program. In some programs, they blend the two together. So, but in general, you want to start acknowledging that things have thicknesses as you resolve like your form finding exercises. And so this is like a great part now where you can start giving thicknesses to elements because you have all the major elements now, right? So for example, here, your roof isn't just going to be like this, right? I mean, this is great for a concept design. Like if you wanted to show this at a desk crit, like, this is my concept. My concept is this landform building and people can occupy it both internally and above and interact with this space. We're going to add a couple more elements to this. But, this is something that great for just a concept, big idea, and you're done. And you can show this, as a great starting point for a concept. But let's just give it a little bit more complexity. Let's just go to shaded view. And let's just give this a thickness here. So this is the surface we have here. I can either click on it or I can just go here, select objects, right? And I always like to copy my surfaces because I can always go back to it. So if I do Control C, Control V, I'll just go ahead and hide that and go back and select objects again. Okay. Let's just give this a thickness. We'll give this like maybe, in reality, this will probably be like a 3-foot thick roof plenum to compensate for the stair structure and the actual structure of the roof and HVAC or electrical that's going in here. But again, we're keeping this like basic schematic. So we're going to go in here, give it a thickness of maybe, we'll go like -2.5 feet. There you go. So now we gave this guy a thickness, right? What we can do, I'm going to go ahead and select objects here. And you're going to, again, I like to make duplicates of things because I like to go back and reference things for diagrams. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to group it and then Control C, Control V, and just hide, okay? Because what we're going to do next is I'm going to Boolean union this stairs to this roof. So if I do select objects here, and then let's go to roof, select objects, right? And let me just isolate. All right, let's just go ahead and Boolean union this. So let's do Boolean union. And just let it do its thing. Boom. Okay, awesome. You see, this whole thing is Boolean union now. So like if you see here, you see how it cut off the stairs? Let me do cell curve. I wonder if I have it. Okay, there's no curve. So if you notice, it basically blended into one. Now this is one element. Which is cool because if you show this as a exploded axon, you have this as one element now, which would make sense, right? Great. So let's again unisolate. Notice I'm always using the isolate command. So we have this piece of glass here that's kind of overlapping. Let's just split that. If I do DupEdge, let's DupEdge here. Now I'm going to group it. I'm going to go ahead and split this glass surface with this edge. There we go. And let me just delete that and delete this. Let's go to rendered view. So now it's getting cleaner and cleaner. It's starting to become more and more of a building, right? I mean, from an architectural standpoint, there's a lot of things that you could do from a detailed level. So like, for example, we could offset the glass in, right? Like this, so that this line is more emphasized, or we could even like taper. We could taper the edge of this so that's like a very thin profile at the very edge. But for now, let's just keep it basic. And even in the elevation view, this looks cool. So if I go to isolate, and let's just look at it at the side views, that looks cool, you know? But again, this is a very basic shape, right, that we're making architectural. Again, I'm just doing this exercise so you understand how you can take very basic geometries or geometries that may look complex, but it's actually very simple from a Rhino standpoint, and start giving it meaning. And so let's say, for example, we want to give this now. So now we have like 3 elements, right? We have an edge and a roof plaza and a ground plane. Let's give this another level, right? Let's just give this like, we'll say basement. Okay. And we'll give it a color. That looks too much like brown. Okay, cool. And then we'll give another layer and we'll give it a courtyard. Okay. Again, you see how layering is so important. You get in a habit early like this, it's going to be so easy to diagram and make plans. Let's give it a purple. Okay. So let's just give this a basement for now. Let's do just a rectangle. Let me go to shaded view. I'm going to go from here to here. And I'm going to go down. Let's go down negative 14 feet like that. And then I'll do a plane from here to here. Let's just join this. Okay. And then let's give this a courtyard. Okay, let's say maybe you want to give this a courtyard. So what I'll do before I do anything subtractive, because when you do something subtractive, you're basically destroying. It's a destructive command. You're destroying your model. So let's just go here, and I'm going to duplicate this just because. Always, again, like to keep my originals, because maybe in your originals, you're going to show your process. Like I did this and then I did that. You're going to show your operations. If I go circle, right? And this is, again, arbitrary. I'm going to start right here, and we'll just make the circle like that big. Okay. You can't see it because I just did it. There's the circle right there. And we'll take the gumball. If I hold shift on the gumball, when I click on the dot, that solid dot, it will, let me just isolate it. It's easier. If I hold shift right here and the solid dot, it'll extrude in both directions. Let's just make this really big for now, so it just penetrates everything shaded. Unisolate. Okay, nice. So let's go ahead and let's Boolean split. So let me select this object here. Let me isolate this guy. Let's go ahead and let's Boolean split this roof with this cylinder. So I do Boolean split. I'm going to Boolean split this with this. All right, cool. If we go in here, because I have it grouped, let me just ungroup. Okay. That's gone. Okay, nice. And so now we have this intersection here. Let's go ahead. So let's say that this is like a glass. Let's say this is like a glass guardrail and courtyard that's going to go down all the way to the basement. So if I go to courtyard, and let me just give this the glass material that we made earlier. Okay. And let's make this also like just transparent so we can in shaded view. Nice. So I can take this profile. If I do DupEdge, right? Let me dupe this edge right here. And let me just go ahead and I'm going to move this edge up here, right? This edge, I'm going to move it up here, that curve edge, and I'll move it up again 42 inches, because typically that's guardrail height. So if I type in move vertical, sorry, I typed too fast. Move V for vertical. Let's go up here, right? Then let's just move this up 40. Let me move it up from here, actually, 42 inches. move vertical 42 inches. There you go. So now we have like this guard that's 42 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and split this object with this, if I can find it. It's right here. There we go. There we go. So now we have like this guard, right, that we can look down the courtyard. We unisolate, and then let me go ahead and split this ground plane with this object. So split this ground plane with this guy so that we can, because now this courtyard is going to go all the way down to here. So like, let's say we walk in this space and then boom, you get like this courtyard, this really cool courtyard space. And don't worry, we're gonna play around with this space here in another video. So let's just split now this. Let's split this bottom with the base of this. Split. I could have done this all at once, but I just want to do it for redundancy. There we go. Nice. Now, we can start giving this even more like reality. So now we have like roof thickness, right? We can start giving like edge thicknesses to the glass. So let's say, so this is our glass layer, right? Let me just select this here. Let me isolate this. So this is our glass, okay? Let's give it some mullions, right? I can call them mullions. We'll call it frames for now to keep it very general, frames. And we'll give it a gray tone. And, you know, actually, let's give it like a material for now. We'll give it, we'll give it metal. And let's pick a metal color, maybe silver. Okay, nice. Make it look very polished. Okay. So a very quick way of doing frames is, again, let me go ahead and explode this. We can contour this guy, and maybe let's contour it like every 5 feet, like that, right? And I can go ahead and let me just group it. And let me give it a thickness. So if I click here, we'll extrude it backwards, like negative, let's say 4 inches. We'll just say this is the type of frames that have, you know, it's like they call them like SSG glazing, structural silicone glazing, where the actual main frame element is behind. Again, very technical, don't worry about that. And then let me go in here. I can do cell curve, and I can hide these curves now. And go ahead and select this guy, deselect this. And then I can do offset surface, and I can do both sides, and maybe let's make it like a really nice thin frame. So it's like a 1 inch thick frame. In reality, probably 2 inches, but we'll say 1 inch for now. So we'll do 0.5. Nice. So now this has a thickness to it. You see, I can take this guy, and because since this whole thing is symmetrical, I can just mirror it, right? You see, I can mirror the whole thing, and then I can take this guy and just mirror it again. I think I need to select these corners here though, which is, let me unisolate when I do this. So I need to mirror, and I want to actually select this here and go like that. Boop. Nice. So now you're given this frame. Let's go back to rendered view. There we go. So again, starting to look more and more like a building. And then let's say, for example, I want to give this like a guard, right? I'll stay in the frame layer, but I'm going to go ahead, shaded. Let me isolate this guy. Let me take that curve. Let me take this curve with us. Isolate it. I can pipe this. If I go in here, I can pipe this. We'll give it a diameter of like 1 inch. Should actually like 1.25 inches, but 1 inch, right? I'm going to take this same curve that I had, right? And I'm going to divide it by like maybe 25. Do 25. Okay, nice. So you see all these points here? I can take, these points have been grouped too, because I had in the settings as group. Let me just cover that. If you do divide, and let me select the curve again. I'm not gonna go through the entire command. That's fine. You can group output, which is important, because then once you actually do it, you don't have to click on each point individually. So I can take these points and I can actually extrude them down. So when you extrude points in Rhino, they become lines. Again, it's like architecture school or design school. Points, lines, planes. So you take these lines and you points, and it'll become lines, you see? And then these can be like, divisions of glass, or we could technically extrude. There's so many ways of making these mullions. We could have made one mullion and then did array polar, but let's just say this is like butt glazed glass for now. I'm not going to go into crazy detail making mullions and frames in this video. So let me just go ahead and split, select objects to split. I'm going to split this. Like that. Nice. And then let me just select these guys. And then I'm going to group them. And then I'm going to give it a very thin pipe of like a 1/4 inch, so like these black divisions, these black line divisions. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a very thin pipe diameter so that it just looks like a very thin division. So pipe diameter, we'll do 0.25 inches. Nice. So if I do SEL curve, cell curve, and if I do SEL PT for points, it'll select curves and points. We'll just hide these for now. If I do unisolate, there we go. If I go to rendered view, yeah. You're going in, and so maybe like, for example, as like an architectural, you're in this urban plaza, people can walk up, maybe, there's like trees growing out of here from the ground plane. Pretty cool space, to be honest. There's trees coming out of here. Let's say, for example, let's add a bridge. And then, maybe we can give ourselves a bridge here. So you can go from this space to this space once you're actually inside. And let's turn on the center snap on this one. There we go. Just want to make sure. There it is. And then let's just go like right there. Take this point. I can reorient my gumball. If I right click on my gumball, I can do align to object. And I can take this point right here and I can pull it here, for example. And then I could also extrude both sides of it. So let's just do, let me isolate this. Let's do, I'm just doing this arbitrarily like that. This is pretty wide, but it's okay. And then let's give this a thickness of, we'll give this a thickness of 2.5 feet because that's how thick we gave the roof. There we go. And then we can do the exact, we can give this self a guardrail as well. So we do dupe face border, pull this up. This can go in. 42 inches, right? Let me just isolate this, explode it. Let's change the layer to this to change it to glass. And then this is DupEdge. Or let me show you, I can pipe it and I can select this. I can select this edge and give it 1 inch diameter. Same thing here, like that. Right. Let me just change this to these two guys. Let me just change it to the frame there. Nicely. Nice. So now you have this project where you can go and we're going to come back to this where we cut underneath these spaces here. Let me go down here and do negative 2.5. Nice. So in reality, right, we would want to cut down the space. So I did clipping plane. Right, let's do a vertical clipping plane. It's on the black. And then let's rotate it 180. And let's pull the clipping plane. Now we got this cool clipping plane here. So in reality, right, we're going to get rid of this so that you go down, like this space will open up like this. And the same thing here. We're going to get rid of this. But for now, this video is long enough. And we'll show a second option for this video. But let's go to render view. And so this looks like a legit space, you know? And so if we I like to always update my camera angles. I like to stick it around 25 and 30. So let's stay at the 25 angle mark. And for the clipping plane, let me rotate the clipping plane. Let's rotate it negative 90, like that. And let's pull here, just so I can show you what we will do next. So I mean, first off, this looks really clean, right? As a section. What we're gonna do is in the next videos, we're gonna get rid of this so that this becomes open to below like that as a section. But for now, we'll keep it. And so, like in reality, right? If we wanted to make this more and more real, you know, we would have like this would be your ceiling finish, right? And then you would obviously have your installation layer, and then your structure, and your membrane layer. So that's why you need this to be like a very thick planar. And you see, the more when you give this a thickness, it becomes believable. Like it becomes like something, it's like legit believable, you know? So that's why it's so important to give things thicknesses. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down in the comment section below.